First, I want to thank Ohr Somayach for once again opening its doors to me and to so many others. I think it's since about 1997 and 1998 that I've been coming here Ben Azmanim, and I'm always overwhelmed, first by Eretz Yisroel, then by Yerushalayim, and then by this extraordinary yeshiva. The courtyard I loved so dearly is gone, but in Yitzhak Hashem there'll be a binyan that'll be l'shem u'l'sefaras. I want to share with you a sugya that I dealt with while I was here these last 2 weeks, and maybe a lesson that we can take from that sugya. The sugya has to do with the Shulchan Aruch and Siman Reish Tezvav, Siv Dalet. It's a Shas sugya, a sugya of bracha levatola. We all know that making a bracha when it's not needed, a bracha she'en tzricha, is an aveira. It's a chomedik aveira. It's a serious aveira. The language of the Rambam, which is the language of the Shulchan Aruch, is kol hamevorech bracha she'en tzricha. Hari zeh nes Hashem shemayim l'shav, hari yu kenishba l'shav. It's like swearing falsely, which the Magen Avraham and the Mishnah Berurah goes with the Magen Avraham, holds that according to the Rambam, a bracha levatola is an issa d'oraisa. In other words, saying a bracha when it's not needed, a bracha she'en tzricha, a bracha levatola, that is an issa d'oraisa, and there are many consequences in it being an issa d'oraisa. The Chayei Adam and many others, but the Chayei Adam has an arichus in the beginning of Klal Hey. He says it can't be. How can a bracha levatola be an issa d'oraisa? If a person praises Hashem, he says, Atahu Hashem Elokeinu Borei Pri Adama. God, he praises God for creating Pri Adama, so then it's not an aveira at all. Praising Hashem, you're allowed to say HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name in praise. So if someone says, Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam Borei Pri Adama, so how could that be an issa d'oraisa? That's the Chayei Adam's pliya. He has a number of questions, but this is the strongest of his questions, is that logically it makes no sense that it should be in issa d'oraisa, and l'maisa there's a machlokes in the poskim. The Chazon Ish takes on like the Chayei Adam, among others, that it can't be. How could a bracha levatola be in issa d'oraisa? I'd like to share with you a possible answer. Let me share with you two more questions on this, on the idea that the Rambam holds it's an issa d'oraisa to make a bracha levatola. The halacha is that if you're not sure if you benched, if you said birchas hamazon, so the halacha is that normally you don't, if you're not sure, safek brachas lahakol, you don't bench. But if you ate kedei svia, you ate enough that the obligation to bench is a chiyuv d'oraisa, then, if you're not sure of your bench, that's a safek d'oraisa, and you bench. That's halacha psuka in the Rambam. The Chayei Adam says, hold on a minute. If bracha levatola is an issa d'rabbanan, and benching is an issa d'oraisa, so we understand you'd satisfy the safek d'oraisa and bench, even though it's a safek bracha levatola. But a bracha levatola is itself an isser d'oraisa. So you have here two safek isser d'oraisas. It's an isser d'oraisa to say a bracha levatola. It's an isser d'oraisa to go without benching. So we would say sheva al tasa, don't bench. So the Chayei Adam asks, if you hold safek bracha levatola, if you hold bracha levatola as an isser d'oraisa, it doesn't stem with this particular halacha. That's the second question asked by the Chayei Adam. Now, if bracha levatola is an issa d'oraisa, which pasuk is it? Where in the Torah does it say anything about bracha levatala? So the Gemara says in Tamura, on Dav Gimel, that it's a violation of Es Hashem Elokecha Tira. It's a violation of Yiras Hashem to say HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name for nothing. That was in Parshas Voschanan 2 weeks ago. So I was sitting here and I had a Torah Tamima. And the Torah Tamima asks a kasha. He says, why does the Gemara learn the Issa Bracha Levatala from Es Hashem Elokecha Tira? Isn't it a violation of one of the Aseret HaDibros, also Parshas Voschanan? The Issa of Leisisa Hashem Hashem Elokecha Lashav, that should be the Issa. Why go to an indirect Hashem Elokecha Tira, have fear of Hashem, so you know say Levatala, go directly Leisisa Hashem Elokecha Lashav. There's a Gemara Brachas Lamed Gimel that brings that Legabi Bracha Levatala. So this is the Torah Tamima's kasha. So in short, 3 questions on this inyan. Again, the Rambam apparently holds that Bracha Levatala is an Issa D'Oraisa. Question number 1 is logically, how could it be that if you say praise of Hashem with His name, it's an Issa D'Oraisa? Number 2, it's a contradiction in the Rambam by Safik Beirach Birchas Hamazon, where the Rambam says, if you have a suffix, if you're benched, when benching is D'Oraisa, you're mechuyev to bench, but a bracha of Atala is D'Oraisa, you shouldn't be allowed to. And number 3, the Torah Tamima's kasha, why the source of the Isra bracha of Atala is as Hashem Elokecha Tira, why isn't it Leisisa Hashem Elokecha Lashav? So these are the 3 questions that I'd like to address. And I have to tell you that the answer came as much from a hergish, as much of a feeling, as from something very technical. There were 2 yeshiva bachrim here who were zeichet to visit Bnei Brak and go into Reb Chaim Kanievsky. And I had a friend of mine in Bnei Brak take them in. And he took a picture of them. And then he told them, smile for the picture. So when they came back, they told me it was very hard to smile. The intensity in the room, the feeling of Kedusha in the room, it was very hard to smile. I see pictures in the Modia all the time. Plenty of people have no problem smiling. Kedusha affects a person according to how much his antennas are up to feel it. To sense the Kedusha, to be in awe, to have Yiras HaKavod, obviously it depends on a person. If a person has that connection to it, so then he feels it. Then he feels it. And Kedusha could be in a place, and if a person doesn't feel it, then if he doesn't have the kalim to feel it, he doesn't have the awe to feel it, then he won't feel it. I remember as a bacher, I used to go to Ramesha Shurim in the Lower East Side on Fridays, and very often had the opportunity to drive him home. One of my Yetzaharas, which I have very few, is that I'm sometimes impatient in my driving. At least I was as a young man. And my mother asked me, how can you drive Rav Moshe? I told her, when Rav Moshe's in the car, not only do I stop for the red lights, I stop for the yellow lights too. Because Rav Moshe's in the car. Rav Moshe's not there. Why don't you feel the Rabbeinu Shalom is in the car? You have to have the antennas to feel Kedusha. You have to be able to feel it. Not everyone feels it. When someone goes to the Kaisel, it's probably the biggest example and saddest example of that idea. After the 67 war, when we were able to go to the Kaisel again, I went the first time in the early 70s. I was 15 years old. There was an awe of the Kaisel. Well, I remember in those years there were no chairs by the Kaisel. You didn't sit by the Kaisel. If you go to the Kaisel, you stand. There were no chairs by the Kaisel. Elderly people came, so somebody schlepped a chair for them. There was an awe. Nobody would sit there and give out schnapps and rogalach for a l'chaim, for a yahrzeit. Nobody would do that. You go outside to do that. There was a certain aima, there was a certain awe of the kaisel. If you had the kalim to feel it, you could feel it. How could you smile at the kaisel? The kaisel is the remnant of the Beis Hamikdash. Imagine someone has a home, a beautiful home, Chalila. The whole house burns down and one wall is left standing. And he sees people standing by the wall and they're singing and they're dancing and they're joyful. But you see, it depends if you have the kalim to have awe at a place that demands yira. It depends on the person. Depends on who you are. My Rebbe, Rav Pam, ingrained in us a yira at the Kaisel. He used to tell us that he went to the Kaisel and people were schmoozing there. They couldn't believe it. Rav Pam was not a kanoi. He said people who talk in shul, talk by the Kaisel, and when the Kain's doing the Avodah on Yom Kippur, we're going to have to shush them also. You know, Rav Pam didn't go back to the Kaisel. He was so disturbed that he didn't go a second time. Those who count him among his Talmidim would not speak Devarim B'Teilim in front of the Kaisel. Or is based on a person understanding that there's Kedusha. If you understand there's Kedusha, there's awe. When I learned Masechtas Temura is a sugya of a person who has a carbon, an animal that's a carbon. He takes a second animal and he intends to transfer Kedusha from the carbon to the second animal. He says that the Kedusha on animal A, which is a carbon, should be transferred to animal B. So the Torah says you're not allowed to do that, it's allowed. And who Tmurasa Yiyah Kaidish. Both the carbon and the second animal both get Kedusha. It's a deraisa, as I state in the Torah. There's a difficulty with this, which the Gemara discusses, the Gemara Nazir discusses. It shouldn't be that way. You have a person, obviously doesn't know the halacha. If he knows the halacha, they're both kaidish, he wouldn't be doing this. You have a person who thinks it's legitimate. I want to transfer Kedusha from this to that. So he's only making the second carbon have Kedusha with the understanding that it's going to come off the first one and go to the second one. If it doesn't work, so that's Hegdish B'Tos. It's like a Mekatos. If you tell somebody, I'll trade you A for B, and it turns out you can't get A, so he says, okay, you can't get A, but I get B. It's ridiculous. I'm only giving you A because I get B. So the whole Tmura, it's a Mekatos. I don't want to give Kedusha to the second animal. So in the Sugya Nazir, Beis Hillel holds Kedusha B'Tos Hegdish B'Tos is not Hegdish. And he says, well, here it's different because one of them was already Kaidish. One was already Kaidish. If you make a toss, when you take an animal, make it Hegdish, not Kaidish. Here, the other one was already Kaidish, then it does. So the answer that needs explanation. When I learned Temura, I understood a Chiddush, which I think is correct, that the second animal gets Kedusha not because he made it Kaddish, but it's an einish. It's a punishment to the person doing it. The raya to this is in Beis Amid Beis, in Tamura. The Gemara has a question of a cotton. A 12-year-old could make things Kaddish. The Gemara has a question if a cotton can make a Tamura. Why not? A 12-year-old can make Kaddish. The Gemara says, cotton, la barainshin. La barainshin. The Gemara seems to say, Tamura is not because you're magdish it, it's an einish. So now you try to trace a Kedusha, the punishment is you lose both. Punishment for what? He obviously thought he could do it. He thought he's allowed to do it. What's it a punishment for? The answer is the same thing. If you have an animal that's Kaddish, you have to sense the Kedusha. Don't treat it like an ordinary animal. It's Kedusha Saguf. It's inherently Kaddish. You should be in awe. You don't mess with Kedusha. You don't start up with Kedusha. You don't go to an animal that has Kedusha Saguf. It's a carbon. It's going to go into his back. You start playing games with it. The Torah wants that you have to push you to sense Kedusha. If you don't sense Kedusha, so you're going to fool around. You switch it from this to that. Yisroel says Kedusha B'Toras is nothing. But here it's already Kaddish. There's something Kaddish in front of you. When there's something Kaddish in front of you, you don't play around with it. That's the Nakuda I want to share with you. That Kedusha is what you make of it. You can come upon Kedusha, you can walk into Kedusha, you can meet Kedusha. If you don't have the sense, the awe, the yira, you'll have nothing from it. You'll have nothing from it. It'll be just another person or just another place. Another place for people to get together. To have an understanding that there's a metzius of Kedusha in the world, a person has to be able to have a sense of the awe of Kedusha, the sense of Kedusha. By the Malachim, to say Hashem's name, they have to say Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. The Gemara says they have to say 3 words before saying HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name. We say in davening, Kedusha kulam ke'echad, Einim be'ema v'oimrim b'yira. Or Einim v'oimrim b'yira. We say the angels, when they're ready to say HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name, Kedusha kulam ke'echad, Einim v'oimrim b'yira. What's yira by malachim? Malachim don't have emotions, they have yira. HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name, it itself, the Kedusha of the Shem Hashem, it's something a person has to feel the awe of the Shem Hashem. We're so used to speaking, saying brachas that we don't sense the awe that there has to be in a person talking to the Borei Olam, talking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and a person expressing. The Kedusha of the Shem Hashem depends on the awe of the person who speaks it, the awe of the person who feels it. Kedusha depends on the sense that a person has that there's Kedusha there. It requires effort. The guf doesn't feel Kedusha. Neshama feels Kedusha. Neshama feels Kedusha. I realized this when I was in the plane and we were landing here in Eretz Yisrael. As the plane was coming down and landing, I was overwhelmed. I have very strong feelings about the schus of being in Eretz Yisrael. I think about it all the time. I'm named after my father's father. I don't think he imagined that he'd ever be in Eretz Yisrael. He was nifter in 42. There wasn't... he had no havamina he'd be there. And his grandson just flies in and out all the time. You come, you go. As we were landing, I felt it. 10 minutes later, 15 minutes later, I wasn't feeling anything. I was running through the airport, waiting at customs, trying to figure out which line would actually move. It's always the other one. Whoever at customs with me, don't stay on my line. It's always the other line. And then waiting for your luggage and going again. Suddenly, you get too busy and you don't feel the awe. It's sad. It's sad. One of the young men I came with, as we were walking, they have these moving belts where you can lose for you. So he was debating if he should get on it. He asked me, if you walk Dalan Amis in Eretz Yisrael on the belt, does it count? It's a sense. It's a sense. It's the right way to think. It's the right way to think in Eretz Yisrael. I realized that when it's quiet and you reflect, you could feel Kedusha. When you're busy, you're running, you're busy with everything. Mechtav Eliyahu calls it a curse of Nov and Nod Tia Ba'aretz, the curse of Cain. Nov and Nod. He said our generation's curse is that we're always running. We're always running. He writes 70 years ago that people are flying here and there, and they think they're going to be more relaxed people. They're going to relax everywhere. He says the more they fly, the less relaxed people are. It works that way. Sense Kedusha, it takes effort. The person has to stop and think about it. It doesn't always happen. There's a Chavez Das in Yeridea, in Simit Kuf Yud, in Sugis of Svek and Beis HaSofik Ois Chaf, Sukkot Chaf. He's not addressing the Chai Adam's Kasha. He just says, a bracha levatala is something that's said l'shem chiyuv. You can praise Hashem as much as you want. When you say things to fulfill a chiyuv, to fulfill an obligation, it's something else. The word amen, you can say amen a whole day. There's no aveir to say the word amen. In amen yisayma, if someone answers amen on a bracha improperly, that's an aveir. What's the aveir? You can say amen all day. You say something l'shem chiyuv, it's different. When a person says Baruch Atah Hashem, he's praising Hashem. If the aveir of bracha levatol is loisisa Hashem Elokecha Lashav, it's not Lashav. He's saying praise. But if the word is as Hashem Elokecha Tira, it should be a yira, an awe of Hashem. Then when you have a nusach habracha, you have a nusach that's a chiyuv, you have a nusach that says, expresses your thanks to the Borei Olam. Saying a levatala is a violation of that yira. It's a violation. There's a nusach. The nusach is not from the Torah, it's from Chazal. But there's a nusach that's meant to be used to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for what He gives you. And you use it for nothing. You go to the king, and you thank him when he didn't give you anything. It's not nice. It's yira. The Shema Lekecha Tira. The Torah Tamim is kasha answers the Chai Adam's kasha. Chai Adam says, how could it be? You know how it could be? Because the word in saying Shem Hashem is yira, to feel awe, to feel a sense of what it's about, of what it means to say a bracha. We say 100 brachas a day, it became count to us. If we had the awe, the sense, the hergish of what it means, that would be something else. We wouldn't do it for nothing. So we don't violate saying a bracha for nothing. We're violating a lack of yiras Hashem, of the yira of Hashem Elokecha Tira is what we're violating. And that sense, at least to me, is the sense that I feel every time I come to Yerushalayim. Baruch Hashem, we live in a generation. There's been no generation like this. You know, the other day I was in Har HaZeisim. The last time I was in Har HaZeisim was probably over 40 years ago. I was in Har HaZeisim for a levaya, for a kfura. And I looked at, I don't know if you've been in Har HaZeisim or you look out, so of course you can see the Har HaBayis from Har HaZeisim. But from Har HaZeisim you could see the whole panorama of Yerushalayim. As far as you look to the right and the left, as far as you look further down to the west, everywhere you look, you're seeing homes and cranes that are putting up buildings, tall buildings, homes, yeshivas, dwarfs the Sayed Arab neighborhoods that are still there. But the amount of Yidden is there, Har HaZeisim, should leave you breathless. You know, the mountain Har HaZeisim looked at those mosques for centuries, and there weren't Yidden around, there were no Yiddish homes around, there were empty mountains. You stand in Har HaZeisim, you see more homes that house more Yidden than the total number of Yidden that were in this country 100 years ago. 100 years ago, there were 50,000 Jews in this country. It's just awe-inspiring what's taking place in front of our eyes in our lifetime, and we just don't notice it. To be able to be here, to be able to walk the streets of Yerushalayim, to be able to have streets of Yerushalayim that have signs in Aleph Beis letters. Yerushalayim, I think it was always this way. The signs. I told somebody that even the stop signs are in Aleph Beis letters. He said, no, in Israel there are no stop signs. But everything, it absolutely it takes your breath away to see. And then we get used to it. If you want to sense Kedusha, you have to be prepared for it. You have to have a feeling for it. You have to have a hergish for it. If you want to improve your brachas that you make, you have to understand that Baruch Atah Hashem has a special meaning. It's a matbeya shetavu chachamim. That means it's a coin, a means of exchange to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that the chachamim set up as thanking God for the things He gives you, for the things that He gives you. Baruch Atah Hashem. So simple. I'm told, I'm not that old to have lived it, but that in the old home, Elul was a time of awe. It was a time of pachad. I heard that from many people. I once asked my father if where he came from in a little town in the Ukraine, he once told me the whole town had 10 Jewish families. Although I think I've met about 20 people who claim to have come from there. But 10 Jewish families, I asked them, was Elul different? He said, of course Elul was different. We're too busy. We're too busy. To sense awe of Kedusha, a person has to prepare. A person has to stop and think, has to stop running for a moment, and sense the Kedusha that there is. For those of you who live in Yerushalayim, I have one thing over you. I'm only zeicher to be here for a very brief period of time. And I still sense the awe. It's incredible. Incredible. To stand by the Kaisel. Stand by the Kaisel. Chai Adam has a Sefer Sharei Tzedek. It's on Halachas HaNegin Beretz Yisroel. He writes there, in the beginning of what he calls Shar Mishpat Ha'oretz, Loi kol haroitz alitos Hashem la'alois yala. Not everybody who wants to go up to Eretz Yisrael should go. Dafka mi sheyesh biyadai lekadesh es atzmai sham. Only someone who goes there, lekadesh es atzmai, to absorb Kedusha. He quotes the Shloh, V'chein kosav ha-Shloh b'shem ha-Charedim, Shemi she'enoi miskadesh u'mitahir sham, mutav shelo yala. Somebody goes to Eretz Yisrael and doesn't stop to sense Kedusha, doesn't try to absorb the Kedusha and elevate himself and raise himself, mutav shelo yala. Such an opportunity. Fortunate to be in Eretz Yisrael, fortunate to be in Yerushalayim Kodesh, to go to the Kaisel. proficient to learn Eretz Yisrael. It says, Avira da'ara machkin. The ear in Eretz Yisrael makes a person wise. If you don't learn, it doesn't make you wise. A person has to come here to absorb the Kedushas Haaretz, know what it means that you, Eretz Yisrael. The story the Chassidim tell about the Tzemach Tzedek. That there was a rumor in the Tzemach Tzedek's town that when he went to the mikveh Erev Shabbos and he came out, he shone from the glow of Gan Eden. And that if you could get a glimpse of him, you could see him, so you get some of that Kedusha. So it's a skula. The rumor got around, and every Erev Shabbos, when the Rebbe came out of the mikveh, there were throngs of people there. So they made a rule in town that nobody's allowed to go on the block of the mikveh when the Rebbe goes. Nobody's allowed to go. Nobody went anymore. So one day, two Hasidim were sitting in the shtibel, and they were talking, and one Chassid tells the other, so you know, across the street from the mikveh, there's this goat farm. Goats in Yiddish are tzigalach. Tzigalach are little goats. The goat farm, he says, you know, when the Rebbe comes out, the tzigalach get to see the Rebbe coming out of the mikveh. He said, oh yeah, I wish I could be a tzigalach. It's worth it to be a little goat just to see the Rebbe coming out of the mikveh. So his friend tells him, what are you talking about? You want to be an animal? It doesn't make any sense. It's not worth to be a tzigalach just to see. So what do you know? It's worth it to see the shine of the Rebbe. They got into an argument. So they said, you know what? They'll go ask the Dayan in town. Is it worth being at Sigala just to see the Rebbe? So he went to this wise man and he listened to both of them. And he said, you know, you're right. It's worth it to be a goat just to get a glimpse of the Kedusha of the Rebbe when he comes from the mikveh. But only on one condition. That afterwards you turn back into a person and you do something with that Kedusha. You stay a goat, so what do you have from it? You have nothing from it. You have to become a person again and use it. I feel that way about Eretz Yisrael. It's worth coming to Eretz Yisrael if you're a mensch, if you're a person, if you're a gavra, if you use the Kedusha that's here, the or that's here. It's hard to describe how the guf of Klal Yisrael sees a time when there are this many Yidden here. You have to understand, after World War II, in 1950, there were 1.5 million Jews here. At that time, there were more Jews in Eretz Yisrael than there had been at any time since the Churban Bayis Rishon. There were no million Jews here in the time of the Bayis Sheni, never. And today, Ken Yirbu, the amount of Yidden that are here, who knows it in the whole Bayis Rishon? There were this 7 million Ken Yirbu Yidden in Eretz Yisrael. I don't know. So what's happening around us, an incredible thing is happening. Kadosh Baruch Hu is pulling Yidden from the whole world, the Arba Kanfei Saaretz. And when I land, and you have to keep your seatbelt on, and I can't do anything else, so for a few minutes I feel I'm one of those Me'arba Kanfei Saaretz that's coming. And then you get busy. Nova no Tia Ba'aretz. I speak to myself, the lesson I try to take back from being here is that if you don't sense Kedusha, the Kedusha does nothing for you. Utav shelo ya'aleh. If you don't stop to sense Kedusha, it does nothing. You want to say a bracha properly, you have to sense the Kedusha of the opportunity of saying a bracha. It's hard, we say it all day, you can't start with all your 100 brachas. You know, I used to go, Mordechai Druk, Zitzal, used to give a maimer, a vad, during Shal Shudas time, to Mincha and Marav, and I used to go to him. And one time he was speaking about making brachas. So he said, with a little bit of theatrics. That was his style. He said that on Rosh Hashanah in the shul, the one who blows shofar says loudly and clearly, Baruch Atah. He makes a bracha loud and clear. And that bracha is a mitzvah d'Rabbanan at most. And then he goes home and benches, but then he mumbles the benching. You should bench. Baruch Atah. That's how you should bench. I was sitting there. Like I told you, I'm in Yisroel, I'm a little serious. So it struck me. Because you see, in our shul, I blow shofar. And I say, Baruch, I do it. So I resolved, that's it. Next time I bench, I'll do it quietly. I'm going to do that. No. It was Matzah Shabbos, Emma Malka. I forgot about the whole thing. I benched, I remembered afterwards. And then Sunday I said, okay, Sunday I'll remember. Sunday, I don't know, at one point I remembered. I did it a few times, and very hard. The challenge is feeling Kedusha where Kedusha is located, and then it goes into you. You absorb it. Yiddish neshama is waiting for the awe of Kedusha. So as we come to the Yamim Noraim, we should feel it. Every Monday, we talk about Yerushalayim. Somebody once asked me why the yeshiva guys don't have Yom Yerushalayim. I said, we have Yom Yerushalayim every week. He said, what? I said, every Monday we say a special tefillah for Yerushalayim. He said, wow, when do you say it? I told him, you do too. Me? What? So the Yom of Yom Sheni is all about Yerushalayim. Yifei Naif, Mesais Kol Haaretz, Hartzia, and Yakitzeitzaf, and take a look. Don't even be ashamed to look now, but later. Look in the city, you'll see the whole Yom Sheni is all about Yerushalayim. Kodla Shemum, Bir L'Keinu Har Kodsha. What's Ir L'Keinu Har Kodsha? Yifei Naif. What's that beautiful city? Mesais Kol Haaretz, Hartzia, and Yakitzeitzaf, and Kiryas Melech Rav. That's Yerushalayim. Every day we do. And what do we say? We talk about the Malachim, okay, Nifhalu, Nechapazu. We talk about Yira. We talk about Yira. Halu, Nechapazu, the enemies that came here, and they... Let's try to feel it. Let's try to feel it, at least on the Yom of Yom Sheni. Try to feel it. Let's hope we should be Zaycha to the day when we'll all be able to get rid of those things that block our Kedusha receptacles. We'll be able to sense Kedusha, to see Kedusha. We'll point with a finger and say, Zelakenu. We'll physically sense Kedusha. Let's hope that day will come soon. In the meantime, I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here, to be sitting and learning here, and for my good friends here in Ohr Somayach who tolerate my presence here all the time. And I hope HaKadosh Baruch Hu should give me the schus that the Mashiach should come B'Karev. And if he doesn't come B'Karev, in between, Hashem should find a way that I should be able to be sitting and learning and serving him with the awe, the sense, the feeling of the Kedusha that surrounds all of Klal Yisrael. To everybody.